What's good, everybody? You know the time. This is Elevated Vibez right here on IntellectualRadio.com, a iHeart radio station. Now, to jump in this conversation, everybody, y'all know the number to call 708-223-8953. Once again, that is 708-223-8953. Or, or you could hit us up on Facebook Live. Now, folks, this is our last Wednesday. That's right. That's right. We're changing up. We're going to let you know what it is soon, but we're changing up. All right. So y'all stay tuned and in tune, not only with us, but with intellectual radio as well. All right. Now, folks, if you seen earlier, I threw up a post letting y'all know what was going on today. All right. And if you haven't seen it, go in there, play the video. It's about three young boys in Dallas, Texas. They went to a Walgreens, all right, and they were using their five-finger discount, all right. And also, we're going to talk about as well, which came to my attention as well, a young Miss Junie B. Jones, where she did like them, and we are going to talk about on how the fact that they are definitely looking like like the villains. And don't get me wrong, they didn't do right. Let's keep it real. But neither did Miss Junie B. Jones. So y'all make sure y'all look that up. I'm gonna let you judge for yourself. But today we're gonna definitely get on parent accountability for their children. All right. This is something that's been talked about and touched on for a great deal of time now. And let's keep it real. We talk about different things such as it takes a village to raise a child. And you it's many things that we touch on. And you know, we have to get on this and we have to do this. We always talking about, making sure that the future is there and the future has it better than we have. But somehow with both situations, we failed the children. How do we do that? What happened? You know what I mean? So make sure you jump into this, let me know your feelings with it, okay? Now, as I said, there's been different instances where we've talked about parent accountability. We can go to the back in Michigan where the young man shot up the school, killed a few people, and the young lady in Georgia did the same. And if I'm correct, their parents, they're I think both sets are doing time. You know, that's a situation where, you know, the law stepped in and was doing what it should have been doing. All right. But again, though, like we're saying, as parents, we have to step up and take that accountability on many times on what our children do. Now, I'm gonna give y'all a few different things that people have talked about with in favor of that and against it. Okay. Let's start off with the in favor of that level. You know, parents being held accountable for their children's doing, it could be a deterrent effect, which would, push the parents to be more proactive in monitoring what your kid is doing. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong. Hey, everybody, we all out here. We on this money hustle. We on different hustles and trying to, you know, put food on the table and keep the house warm. You know what I'm saying? But on some things, we gotta step back, sit back, and see what the little ones are doing, what they are getting into, like, what they're getting into. Because let's keep it real. When we are away from them, and as I just stated, it takes a village to raise a child. Sometimes the community is bringing stuff to your children that, let's just say, they shouldn't be. Okay. Now, also, in favor, when you're talking about in favor of parent accountability, it can also push the level of better parenting in a way where you can go and look at these issues that may be within the house, you know, and be like neglect. And being that it could be neglect, again, you're allowing the outside to completely raise your child, and that can be definitely be a problem. And to just even talking about that, you could look into community safety, because knowing that your child is out within the community, through high school, playing with the friends or whatever, you know as a parent, you have your ear to the ground. You're trying to see, okay, what's going on around whatever your child's name may be. Okay. I can give little examples, but just still. All right. And then you got to look at things where they may be, okay, things that would bring it against that same thing. Okay. And let's keep it real. There are a lot of unfair consequences that some parents have to deal with, especially if you are not wealthy, or you're in a more of an urban setting. Okay. And as I just said, how the community can be teaching your child, and you got the peer pressure and those, like I said, societal influences. Or let's keep it real, it's a lot of things that bring on mental health issues. There's a lot. And then sometimes you may not be knowing it, and add those influences and so forth with possible mental health issues. It's a tougher job upon you. Okay. And let's dip into even another thing. We have to look at what went on, what happened, what may have brought your child to, let's just say, get into the situation or do the crime, and so forth. Okay. And then looking at the child's age, sometimes, again, that can be very unfair. All right. Your child can be, let's just say, little Timmy. You know, little Timmy is on the block and he see, the older kids doing certain things. So, he may be influenced. Let's say Timmy is 12. All right. And like I said, he see the older kids may do something, like they may sneak around and rob a house or whatever. And Timmy think he can do the same thing, but Timmy get caught. All right. Timmy gets caught. Now, because he was influenced, because he was looking at them, and you may had to let the kid go and play, because hey, you may have some time where you had to get things together around the house. You're paying attention to other things, to you could be working on the house and Timmy's down the street, and that happens. Okay. Police catch them and so forth. Now, is that really on you? No, not really. All right. You're doing your best and you're working hard at it. Okay. You also trying to keep your house together. So, that's not really, really on you, even though, you gotta discipline them. You gotta, you gotta do what you gotta do. And we're gonna talk about that in a minute. All right. You gotta discipline him. But should he get, let's just say, what if he was watching a 19-year-old do the same thing? You know what I'm saying? Should he get what that 19-year-old get? No, he should not. He definitely, definitely should not. All right. Now, once again, just to remind you all, you can jump in this conversation. The number is 708-223-8953. All right. Now, the 10 standard, and I'm saying standard because this could twist off in many different ways. The 10 standard responsibilities of a parent. And you all should know this, but let's say them, let's just get them out there. All right. It's providing for basic needs for your kid, teaching moral values, ensuring education, setting boundaries, promoting physical health, offering emotional support, teaching life skills, encouraging independence, building self esteem, and last but not least, being a positive role model. Now, as I told y'all, we was gonna get into sometimes you gotta discipline the child. Do you all agree that sometimes you gotta whoop your kid? All right. And I know some people and psychiatrists say there's an issue with that and so forth, but sometimes when they come down to it, you you got to give them a little. You got to put your hands on 'em. Best way to put it, or get the belt. Okay, let's say it in a kinder way. All right. Now, I know some of y'all may look down on that, but let's keep it very honest. I'd rather put the discipline on my kid than the law. Because once you get to that, or at least my little discipline will last a day, a couple weeks or whatever. When the law disciplines, you stuck on that for life. And nobody wants their child to be dealing with that for the rest of their life. And you know how what society is at this point, and it could definitely happen, you know? Also, and I hope, and I gave y'all a little time to look at that video. And the only reason I'm not going to play it on here because there's a lot of language in it and so forth, because it's raw. It's a raw video, y'all. Plain and simple. All right. And the kids, they're talking to adults like they are adults, even though they were dead wrong. Because if you all don't know the situation, I'm gonna try to break it down for you real quick. All right. There were three kids. I don't think any of them are over 13. Okay. These three kids go into a Walgreens. They fill up their shopping bags with candy and toys. And what the Walgreens employee or employees did, and I think it may have been more than one. What they did, they locked the doors. They locked the doors on the kids. And, the kids stopped, cussing them out and all this, and actually in many ways talking about they gonna tear the place up. These are kids. These are actual kids saying this. Some people were complaining or saying, because father may not be in their life and so forth. And this is what I mean, going back to that we gotta raise these kids. Because it may not have been a father in their life. All that I've seen with the social media thing is that I think their sister came out and she was just as out of pocket as those kids are. All right. If not worse. But, you know, there gotta be an uncle or somebody, you know, who should be, rallying these kids up, whooping them. Let's keep it real. You know what I'm saying? Somebody has to be able to come and discipline them within that family. And then I think on some aspects, and I'm not saying, because saying whoopings and, using a belt or whatever, first thing people may say that I'm trying to advocate, child abuse. No, I'm not. Far from it. But some things and some levels, you got to get at the kid where the kid understand, hey, I was completely out of pocket. I was completely wrong. And that whooping or whatever could probably set them on a better path than where they're going. You know, These three young men, I would love to hear about them later on in life, and they changed their ways and doing great things. But just from what I'm seeing today, because even though I know this is from what I'm hearing, a couple of days behind. I'm a couple of days behind this, because I just came across it recently. From what I could see, on what the kids are going down the wrong, completely wrong path, you know. But we as a community, and you know, hey, I'm connected with some people that's down in Dallas right now. I hope y'all hear me, and y'all help get at those kids if you can. All right, this needs to happen. This needs to happen. You know, let's make this, a shining example of changing these kids. We all stepping up, the community stepping up and changing these kids and putting them on a better path. All right. Now let me just throw down some of the top leads to child criminal activity. All right. And we touched on a few of these things right now. Okay. But some of them, like we spoke about, neglect or abuse, lack of, I kind of agree slash disagree with this constant monitoring of a child. You, I don't believe you should constant monitor a child, but still monitor and see what the heck they doing, you know, and the guidance of the child, the parental guidance. Even though let's just say some of us didn't have the best of guidance. I'm not going to, but let's just hypothetically say that. But we do all know right from wrong. So you can guide your child, even though you could have been in a lot of wrong, seen a lot of wrong, did a lot of wrong. You could still guide your child to do right. You understand what I'm saying? And then another thing to criminal activity for a child would be the growing conflict, let's say if there is that between the parents, um like we spoke about some those young men being fatherless, you know whatever went down, I mean, whoever the father is and all that, they need to step up and say, hey, I am not the best, we have not been the best, but let's work on getting our kids right. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, you don't have to be all lovey-dovey, this and that. Not saying that. But what I am saying is that, you know, mom, pops, y'all get it together and get the kids right. You don't have to be the best of friends, but do what you need to do for the kids. All right. Now, let me drop a few things of historical things on, you know, parents being accountable. Like we spoke about the parents in Michigan and the parents in Georgia. But even further back, there are laws that have been passed, like just in Colorado, which there is a punish the parents law that parents are either coming up off some money if your kids do something wrong, or you're spending some time in prison, which is it's a lot, but sometimes some situations put it to that point. Just like I spoke about with um Michigan and Georgia. Now, and also let's get this part out in the air. Okay. There was once this thing that was going on here in Chicago where, these kids coming downtown acting buck wild and all that. And, they wanted that snap curfew or whatever that was called. Now, honestly, I personally agree with Brandon Johnson that that would not have been the best thing, because that leads things down to a darker road where nobody wins. Okay. So just like he was saying, I'm trying to remember his exact words, but what we have to do as a community is corral these kids. Corral them, even though they're not yours. And we all gotten to that point sometimes where, hey, I'm not gonna worry about the kid down the street. I got my own kids to worry about. Yes, you got your children to worry about. True that. All right. But your child knows that kid down the street. Your child, even though they may be on point, but they may still be learning something good or bad from that kid down the street. So is it better to completely ignore that kid that might be calling out for help and is in so much mental trouble or whatever? Or is it better to ignore him or her? Or is it better to corral them and try to build them too? I mean, you do not have to be their parent, but you could be a helper for them to bring them to a better way, to a better, light or whatsoever. And then don't get me wrong, you get those parents, and I'm talking to those parents too. You get those parents where they're gonna be quick to tell you, "Don't you tell me how to raise my kid." You know, number one, those parents, whoever you are, I'm not trying to raise your kid. I'm actually trying to help your kid. I'm trying to build your kid just like you're trying to, even though you may have some trouble parent. And I'm saying that in a full way to have everybody understand again that we, the community, have to raise these children to be better than where they are being led to. All right. Because we are in a felon society right now, and I know on this show you all hear us, we always talking about political this, political that. But overall, what's happening in politics, what's happening in Washington and so forth, you know, it is trickling down to all of us. And we've already had it bad on many things. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about to get worse. It's about to get worse. And is it not our job, okay, to make this world better for the next generation? I honestly and truly want y'all to think about that. Is it not our job to do that? And you can no longer, and we've done it, and I'm guilty of it too, where again, I'm worried about my own. I'm not worrying about everybody else, the kid down the street and so forth. But, being how things are right now, we got to flip that script. To help our kids, we got to help that kid. We got to help that kid be better. Again, it does not have to be, oh, you know, kid, we're gonna give you a car. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that, you know, if you see young person, they could be, I'm just guessing, 17, 18 years old. They out here, they out here just being out there, you know. If you can step up to the kid and just talk about, hey, yo, blase skip, what you like doing, and talk about whatever skills that they like digging to do, and lead them to a better way. And what I'm saying is get them towards that path where they even thinking about a job of what they want to do, or even speaking about it. It doesn't have to be a college, it could be a trade school, whatever, you know, just giving them that advice that will lead them into that better way. Then everybody, that's what we need to do. We need to stand together and do that. All right? Most definitely. We need to stand together and do that. And now let's step on I already forgot the young lady's name, but Oh, it's not okay. But you know, the girl, and you'll have to look it up. The girl that was stealing, you know, we have to see the difference from what the media is showing things how to be. Okay. And what I'm saying is and I spoke about it. They're saying the young minority kids are villains while they're making the young Caucasian kid almost like a folk hero, because within the video that she was in, because some other young ladies told on her for stealing, she went up and tried to fight those young ladies for that reason and saying you need to stay out of her business and all the other mess. We're promoting that. Why? This is something that we have to stop. Even though we can relate, I get that part. We can relate on trying to keep other folks out of business and not being that nosy. But when you out of pocket, you out of pocket. And if you need to be called on it, hey, it's time, you know? And this is a little girl, folks. This is a little girl. How is she going to be? Are we doing her any justice by sitting here and, you know, making videos of what she done and dropping music behind it and all that, promoting her? No, we are not doing that young girl justice. And as I was just saying, people learn from one another, kids learn from one another. So guess what is going to happen? The more that those type of videos come out speaking on, stay out of business and all that, it's going to go to another kid. Another kid's going to do the same thing and copy it. We, for a pile of times, have a bunch of copycat things going on through TikTok, Instagram, all them other social media things. And you're doing it for likes. And if it's something out of pocket, come on now. This is what we got to stop. So please, folks, please, 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 let's come on and fix this. I believe we can do it and we can make these things better, and it will help us all in general if we do this. Okay? All right, folks. Well, I just want to tell y'all once again, this is our last show on a Wednesday. We're going to be changing soon to a brand new day, a brand new time, and what we want y'all to do is, hey, get with us, get in this conversation, and together we can build for something better. It starts with a great conversation, though, folks. It starts with a great conversation, great ideas, and building for better. So here at Elevated Vibes, we ask of you to join with us and let's do that. I am your boy Abdul Rashid. Usually you have boss man Mike B and Mr. Tim Evans. They will be back next time for the new showtime, folks. They will be back. So y'all stay tuned and y'all keep with Intellectual Radio, because real talk, we need this. We need this and we can build together with this. So let's do it. So your boy Abdul Rashid, this is Elevated Vibes. We will catch y'all next time. Peace.